Let's go to the club misery. How did you take the news? Obviously, the shock is goes without saying, but what are your like initial thoughts?
Uh, I guess just one of like just profound sadness. You know what I mean? It feels like uh, I don't ever like to like compare death here, but it feels like when you lose a really really good friend, like when they say goodbye and either you're not going to see him again or I don't know. It felt like loss. Like overall, it just felt like loss. And I think what really makes Jurgen unique is like we can talk about what shape he left the club in, the improvements he's made, the trophies he's won. Um, the fact that Liverpool is back as an elite club on the international front in club soccer, club football. But I think what he really brought, in my opinion, was like this sense of community back into Liverpool football in a way that is so core to the fabric of that club. And in a way that you see in grassroots football that you don't often see in modern football anymore. And I think like when I think about the loss of Jurgen Klopp, I think tactics can be evolved. You can bring world-class tactics back to the club. You can bring a manager who can acquire world-class talent. You can bring scouting, you can bring directors of footballs, you can bring brilliant minds into the building with analytics, and you can replicate those things. But it's really hard to replicate the type of leadership that he brings in the way that he makes players play for each other in modern football, in a way that he makes players play for a city in modern football. I don't think those things can be easily replicated.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Brian says, the unique thing about Jurgen was he got us. And yeah, it's like, no one could be a better fit, which obviously is the problem that we will have moving forward. But how about you, Gally?
Yeah, I mean, it was an emotional morning, right? When I heard about it, I was like, no. I genuinely, I think there were a few people, whoever shared it in our Discord channel, it was like almost like the joke, like, you're not getting me to click on that. Like, this is like one of those things guys send out in a big group text, and you click on it, and it's like a naked dude, like standing like this with a sign that says good morning or something. You're like, why was I stupid enough
Or
to
is
like
Bickler
click
in the
the link?
kitchen or something? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Scary. But I just it was one of those things when I really read it, and then I thought about it, and it kind of set in, and it made me realize, like, I agree with Paul. There is a feeling of loss, and like there is that like equating, because I think when someone is that good of a leader and makes you believe in things and makes you think that things will be okay, you see him talk to the players, you hear when something major happens at the club, and you just know you're in good hands. Like, you can get through anything. And I think when you have the idea that a person of that stature is going to leave, things aren't going to get better. Like, it might be different. There might be immediate results. Someone might come in and win something massive immediately, and we might be like, wow, this is really cool and fun and different. But it won't be the same. And I think it's become so normal because he was really, really normal and basic and comfortable. And it just, the got us comment by Brian is really a good one, because, when I got into this sport, it was because it was something new for me to learn and like a cultural change from watching American sports. And I read books about like what it was like in the 70s and 80s. And then I like feel like I got to witness that in the 2018s to 2024 by watching a manager like treat kids in the neighborhood like they were his own. And like, it just, I don't know if we'll ever have another manager like it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, personality-wise, right? I mean, when I saw it, I was up in the crack of dawn, beating up on some kids, probably on FIFA, because I was like, it was way early, even early, like way early, not just early for me, kind of a thing. And in
Like, he hadn't gone to bed, people. He hadn't gone to bed.
So I look, and
It's the only kind of early he knows.
No, man, it was like really like 4:35 and stuff. We're talking really early, like early for everybody, not just me, kind of thing. But I saw it on the feed, and honestly, my initial reaction was, "It is early. I haven't slept much." I was like, "What is the date?" Because it seemed like a cheesy, kind of like what you're saying, Gally, but it seemed like a cheesy April 1st kind of a stupid, like Mbappe signs for 20 years or something like that, that you would be like, oh, April 1st, we get it. And my literally initial reaction was like, what is the date? And then I was like, wait, the kids I beat up on FIFA can't wait. So I went on to YouTube and I watched the interview, because initial reaction is like, why? Everything is going so good now. We could have maybe understood if this was last year. We talked about on the Monday podcast ourselves that he doesn't look like he has the same kind of energy. He looks like a guy that was almost like semi-defeated, tired, whatever, like especially maybe not this time last year, but definitely like the end of 2022. And I'm like, why now kind of thing. And I listened to that. I watched the entire interview and I was like, I get it. Like when I watched that interview, I was like, I get it. And I told the story in the morning as well. I mean, I'm sure like Bickler can relate to it. Actually, Gally, you probably too, because I know your kind of like line of business goes in cycles too. But way back in the day, freaking decades ago, like I used to work retail and I was a hardware manager. And it was like, we were also the seasonal department. So, it's kind of like a constant cycle, summer, winter, Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And I really loved it, enjoyed it because of that change. It was constantly changing. And I maybe never even thought about that, I was kind of sick of it or I needed something else now or anything like that. But I remember this very significant moment of like standing by my desk and I see like a forklift going in the background carrying patio furniture. And I was like, yeah, I'm done with this shit. And like and it was just like all that, I guess, built up stuff I didn't notice, but I was like, yeah, it's time for something new. I'm done with this shit. Like I'm not going through this full cycle again. And watching that interview, I just almost envisioned him in his office looking at like the off-season travel plans and transfer stuff. I'd be like, yeah, I'm done. Like I just don't have the energy to do it again. Because I mean, what makes him special to me, and I know like we kind of get connected to our managers and stuff like that, coaches of our teams, especially when they're successful. But aside from like his manager and how he manages a team and he can get in the city, when you listen to the dude, I'm not a religious person and he is, but his takes, even with religion and world politics and stuff like that, I could not be more aligned with. And how he like sees things, how he expresses things, how he views life and stuff like that. I just felt like, there was like, I connected to the dude in that sense. So when I watched the interview, I was like, you know what, man, I get it. Good luck to you. You deserve it. And I'm glad, I guess, the fact that he's going out on a high, because we were talking about it before we went online, Gally. I think if this happened when we were saying he looked tired and stuff like that, even at the end of last season, we would be almost like his shelf life expired. We even talked about it, like how much he stayed in dormant, his minds and stuff like that. And I think we would have probably said his shelf life was expiring anyway. Whereas now we're like, man, it was a whole new beginning. We put a new sticker on the shelf life kind of thing, and we could have kept going. And that's why I think the biggest sadness comes from.